Mm. Hey, how's it going? How's everybody doing? What the heck time is it where you are? Hey, Richard. Hello, everybody. What's on your minds? 11 p.m. You must be in England. 6 p.m. It's about 11 a.m. here. You're mopping your floor. That doesn't sound fun at all. Trump's not looking too good. He's had a bad week. So I think we can say with some certainty now that there are better persuaders on the Clinton side than there were before. Still on vacation. You want to see my beach view? It's a construction site mostly. Trump's biggest mistake so far? You know what's interesting is that his biggest mistakes are not so much mistakes as they are things that the other side could sort of paint as mistakes. So obviously he was wrong about Russia and Ukraine, and there have been some whoppers of lies, but somehow he gets away with all those. The ones that he actually makes, the real mistakes he makes, he pretty much gets away with. But when he doesn't make a mistake, that's when he gets in trouble. So let me give you an example. When he said something about a crying baby at his rally, he said something that 100% of the people who heard about that story agreed with, which is, damn babies are annoying and they should be taken out. So here he was saying the most normal thing that everyone in the world agreed with, that the baby ought not be there, and he was also being completely honest. So the two qualities that are the least crazy are agreeing with everyone. Everyone in the world agrees that the crying baby was inappropriate. All of us. And then he added another quality which we usually like, honesty. So he actually said it. He was blunt. He just said, bad baby, or whatever he said. But how did that get painted by the opposition? That got painted as Trump yells at baby. So the mistake is not what he did, because all he did was be honest and completely normal. But how it looks is terrible. Take also, for example, the Khan incident. What he said was a comment about gender and Islam, and whether there's a problem with gender in Islam. And that is about as close as you can get to the primary Democratic message. So he was basically saying something that they should agree with as hard as possible, because it's their primary message. Equality, equal rights, especially for gender and minority situations. So what he said agrees with not only the Democrats, but literally everybody. And that was painted as disrespect for a fallen soldier. Now, you could argue that he should have seen that coming, and maybe he even did. I don't think he did, or I don't think he cared, I think would be the better way to say that. But what he said made you focus on that photograph of them standing there, and at least visually, if not in reality, looking like the man was the dominant partner in the marriage. So that was just a really crafty thing to point out, and it agreed with pretty much everybody's idea that they should be equal partners, or what's the reason that she didn't get to speak. So it raised the question, even though we don't know anything about the Khans, their personal life. But in terms of pointing out an issue, it was an issue that everybody agreed with, that there should be, maybe a better gender situation in Islam. And then that got turned into disrespect for a fallen soldier. So my point I was rambling about is that Trump doesn't get in trouble for the things he actually does, such as confusing what's happening in the Ukraine and other factual mistakes. But he gets accused of a lot of things that are just sort of taken out of context or twisted into something dark and evil. Yeah, it is noisy. Media has an agenda. How does he combat that? Well, I don't think he combats the media other than pointing out its bias when he sees it. Because I think people see it at this point. What does politically correct mean? I think it means what you think it means. Yeah, I don't know why I'm vacationing here. Clinton, I like all these questions. Yeah, I saw Clinton refer to Trump as her husband, almost. Trump is spiking in Google searches. Is that true? I hadn't heard that. Well, it's certainly true. He's generating more enthusiasm. So we'll see if that translates into more people going. It seems to me that the people who don't normally vote need a reason to do it this time, and I don't think electing their preferred candidate is ever a good enough reason, because that's why they don't vote. they just can't be bothered to actually go down. So what would it take to get them to be motivated? And I think the answer is a party. I think if somehow the Trump supporters made it fun to be a Trump supporter, and made it especially fun to be a Trump supporter on election day, they would more likely get people to join, not just to like Trump, but people like fun. They like to join things. They like to be part of something, if you make it easy. Now, I don't know how exactly you do that, but, if you were a Trump supporter and you wanted to get your friends who might like him but weren't going to bother to go, you might think about throwing a party, or carpooling to the voting booth, or all wearing your Trump hats or something. So I think the way it works is as a party, sort of a voting party of the silent Trump supporters. Everyone should stay home. The Make America Safe video, I haven't seen it. I didn't hear that misspeak. Do I think the election will be rigged? Well, certainly given the number of places that it could be rigged individually, say a certain district or a county, and all the different devices and all the different interests and all the people have access to them and all the security holes in them, it seems almost certain that some of them will be rigged. Now, whether the rigging reaches a level that changes the election, I think that is entirely possible. And I think that if you think that only a conspiracy theory could think that, you might want to check some documentaries about how easy it is to reprogram some of them. And then once the votes are taken, they all have to be sent somewhere, right? So at some point, all the votes go into one source. um, so that gives you problems too. Do I draw Dilbert on paper or computer? I've been drawing it on computer for years now. I use the Wacom Cintiq. Is the shy Trump voter effect still valid? Probably. Origin of the phrase conspiracy theory? No, my dog is not with me. Should scope drawing a comic? Yeah, one of those days. Well, I don't know if Cialdini is consulting for Clinton. We only know that he consulted for Obama. And if that was the case, it seems unlikely he would be on Trump's side. And it seems deeply unlikely that they wouldn't have offered him some consulting, or at least asked for some advice. I have not tried to contact him. I mean, not about this. We'll do it. Where's your coffee? I already did the coffee. Yeah, I remember the old strip mentioning Trump. That was a long time ago. I have already eaten my almonds. I had lots of almonds already today. How can Trump still win? I think he could do it with a good speech. He could do it with the shy Trump supporter effect. Just people who don't say that they could win, that they're going to vote, but do. He could win it because the polls are already skewed and he's not behind already. He could win it because something terrible happens on the other side. Clinton could have a health problem. Could be a new scandal. Could be a WikiLeaks. There's a lot of stuff that could go wrong. It's a pretty long list. I'm not into macadamias. I don't get into the state-by-state electoral college stuff because I think that's just guessing at this point. Ivanka in the cabinet, I don't think she'd take the job, would she? I don't think it'd be a good idea. a lot of knife attacks to come, huh? Trump will kill in the debates. So here's something that would be really interesting. What if the debates happened and suddenly Trump was really well informed, just because he spent the time prepping to, really learn the issues, and instead of being Trump-like, he just threw out a bunch of facts and figures, and then people said, "What the hell? He must know more than we thought." So by setting the bar so low, in terms of how much he knows, he only has to exhibit like a moderate amount of knowledge about world affairs, and people will, at the very least, they'll say, "Well, he's learning now, or now he can learn, or at least he wants to learn, or he's on the right track." That's pretty much all he needs. So all he'd have to do is one debate where he's mastered, the half dozen important facts on every topic, and then every time there's a question, just say, "Well, our crime in Detroit is up 25%, but just list a bunch of statistics, show some mastery of what has been done before and what can be done." None of that's hard, per topic. Somebody could coach him to that pretty quickly. And just show a little bit of mastery, and it would look like it was a trend. The Trump campaign has not contacted me, no. Will there be a Trump dynasty? Yeah, that's sort of possible. He's got the Republican Kennedy thing going for him. Yeah, I think WikiLeaks has so far been a little overrated. When I saw it, it didn't look like much so far, and I don't know the reason that they would be saving good stuff for later. Assange is on Mar, or was on Mar. I didn't see it. Hillary's animal killing joke. Yeah. Does your brother throw with left hand? As a matter of fact, he does. How should we change our approach to ISIS? Well, I've said it a number of times, and I'll say it again, that we should use persuasion. Because the science of persuasion has reached a point now. It's an entirely different thing than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you couldn't talk somebody out of something that they were really convinced of. We didn't have the knowledge. But now, science has come a long way. We've tested a lot of stuff. Behavioral scientists really know what works and what doesn't, and they know how to rapidly test stuff. We know how to scan your brain to find out if something is working as it's happening. So yeah, we could design persuasion that is absolutely weapons grade and good enough to talk anybody out of anything. Now, one approach isn't going to work for every single potential ISIS recruit. Maybe you get an approach that works really reliably with 20% of them. That alone is going to change the momentum, right? It's going to start looking like they're shrinking instead of growing, and then everybody's like, well, why do I want to join the shrinking organization? Why don't I try to get on a winning team somehow? So changing the direction is all you need to do. But beyond that, if you found a persuasion point that worked for 20% of potential ISIS recruits, you could keep looking for more that work with different slices until you got to 60%, 80%, and at some point you get enough that you can just collapse support without wiping out every last bit of it. What is the best persuasion technique? Fear or sex. So fear and sex are usually the most powerful, but humiliation, which I suppose is a form of fear, works well. I don't need to write any more comics. I'm writing enough. Yes on the Trump landslide prediction. Ivanka or Peter Thiel for president. They'd make a good team, actually. It would be easy to imagine them together. How would you dissuade someone from joining ISIS? An example. So here's what you have to understand. If I give you an example, it would be in the context of brainstorming something that would be worthy of testing. All right? So that doesn't mean it would work. The process would be to brainstorm a bunch of things, test each one of them until you know what works the best and on what kind of people. So you make a real process out of it. But if I were to suggest some likely candidates, you might tell them that their leaders are treating them like suckers, and that really the whole ISIS thing is a scam to get more women and resources for the leaders. Because no matter how true or untrue that is, it's believable enough that confirmation bias would start filling in the details for people. So they would start to see it that way because they started to think about it that way. Even before they believed it, they were just reminded of it anytime they saw, for example, one of their leaders taking an extra wife. They would say, oh, that's right. That propaganda I didn't believe said the whole thing is so that the leaders can get the women and they'll kill off the men, and any plural marriage society needs to kill off a bunch of stupid men. Now another thing would be to show that their own leaders are disrespecting them, and that they're laughing behind their backs at how gullible they are, that they can get these mentally defective people to strap bombs to their backs and go off and kill themselves. And then you start conflating the fact that there have been apparently a number of people with mental issues who have been talked into being suicide bombers. You start conflating that with the idea that that's the only kind of people that they're looking for to be suicide bombers. Not the people who think they are sane, but the people that the leaders believe are unworthy in some way. And so then the people who believe that they might be worthy and they were just trying to do something for a worthy cause, for Allah or for whatever, would start thinking, well, I still like doing noble things for noble causes, but that's not the situation here, right? So you could put doubt in their minds many ways. So mostly you would want to put doubt in their minds about their own leaders. Snorkeling? Maybe. What will make the world end? Well, everything ends eventually. Time, I guess. That was my Yoda answer. If I had to guess, I would say that human technology will reach a point where we can prevent nearly anything, including the burnout of the sun. Yeah, I'm not a volcano watcher. Labeling members as pathetic and weak? Nah, that just sounds like a common insult. Stories of Hillary suffering from brain trauma post-stroke? I'll tell you, I didn't put much stock in that. The idea that she's having minor epileptic-like seizures because she has some lingering problem from a head injury, that when she's faced with confusion, as the story goes, one of the known symptoms is to act confused and go into just sort of a crazy-eyed loop. But there is some video of her going into what looks like crazy-eyed loops, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't evaluate it, but it doesn't look normal. I can tell you from one who is trained to look for micro changes in facial expressions. That's one of the things you learn when you learn to be a hypnotist. I can tell you that she has some tics and expressions and things that just don't look normal, and they happen at times when she's surprised. So that, again, I'm not a doctor, but as an observer who has heard the description of what the symptoms might be like for someone who's got a brain injury with lingering consequences, and then looking at the video, it sure looks like she has them. But it's also completely true that having been primed to look for them, I would imagine I'm seeing it. So I can see it both ways. I am a trained hypnotist, yes. The black growth in her tongue is almost certainly just a camera angle or shadow or something. Would Trump surprise her in a debate? Oh, that would be interesting. Some have said that's why she's not debating, because anything that's surprisingly aggressive will make her tweak out. So that would be really interesting. If she doesn't, I didn't acknowledge you. I acknowledge you. Would Trump cause her to have a seizure? He would certainly try if he thought that was real. He has better information than I do, so he might know for sure whether she's got some seizure-related problems. If I had to bet on it, I'd bet against it. But I also couldn't rule it out. What do you expect the debates to be like? I I think it will be dark, both ways. It's going to be hard to watch. It's going to be so negative. How many people have I watched die? Only one as it happened. Somebody at the end of a natural life in the hospital. But several within, a very short time before it happened. All right, I'm gonna run. It's been good talking to you. How in the world did 700 people sign up for this? All right, bye.